It's been a rough year. There's no way around that. But I want to show today that you and I are not the only ones who've had a rough crypto winter. We're going to go through some of the top influencers out there. I mean YouTube influencers. I mean people who are actually behind these entities, CEOs and whatnot, and what their net worth was back in March of 2022 and where it is now, December of 2022. Let's just jump right into this. So we're gonna do this a little bit old school this time, okay, with this camera. So if you see here, we're talking about all kinds of issues that have been happening in the world this year. And he's saying a lot of investors and founders have lost a collective of $116 billion. That's billion with a B, since March of 2022. Okay, and these are estimates from Forbes. And CZ himself, which I will get into over here, here's the full list. Okay, you guys can see Changpeng Zhao is at the top there, where majority of his wealth, or all of his wealth, as noted by Forbes, is from Binance, as the CEO of Binance. And his net worth in March of 2022 was $65 billion. What is his net worth in December of 2022? 4.5 billion. 4.5 billion. Let me repeat that again. 65 billion in March, 4.5 billion in December. He's lost over 70% of his wealth on paper, provided nothing was sold. But that's a significant amount. Now, we don't need to mention number 2 on the list there, SBF. We know everything about him. He's been talked about ad nauseum, so I'm going to skip him entirely. Brian Armstrong, CEO of Coinbase, net worth in March was $6 billion. Net worth as of December 2022, $1.5 billion. Massive hits. Massive hits. Gary Wang is also part of the whole FTX Alameda crew. Not going to talk about him. Chris Larson from Ripple here. He was worth $4.3 billion in March. Now worth $2.1 billion. We got the Winklevoss brothers from Gemini, both worth estimated $4 billion, now worth $1.1 billion. We've got Barry Silbert from Digital Currency Group, $3.2 billion, down to zero. And we're going to go a few others here, but I want to talk about the OpenSea guys as well, and then Michael Saylor. So OpenSea, if you guys don't know OpenSea, it's the largest trading volume for NFTs across the board. I mean, there's no platform bigger than them. And these guys here were both worth $2.2 billion in March, now down to $600 million. Michael Saylor, we're looking at $1.6 billion in March, and now he's down to $640 million. Interesting part is the fact that Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy actually purchased another 132,000 Bitcoin. Well, I should say they purchased about 2,000 more Bitcoin, which brings them to a total of 132,000 Bitcoin altogether. That is a massive amount of Bitcoin, but it is great to see that even with Michael Saylor's own personal wealth on paper getting destroyed, like CZ and Brian Armstrong and the Winklevoss brothers, he is still 100% dedicated to what is going on in this world, in this future, and that is Bitcoin. For him, it is all about Bitcoin. And it's such a beautiful thing. Now, if you don't know, Michael Saylor himself was a man who has made massive amounts of wealth, one being the longest standing CEO for a public company, MicroStrategy, before he stepped down. Still the executive chairman, just not the CEO. But also, he was sitting on these domain names. And I believe he was paid a ridiculous amount for voice.com. So he would just collect these domain names and wait for people who wanted to purchase them. So I believe he made, I want to say he made about 60 million through domain names. Don't quote me on that, but it is some significant number. I think even for voice.com alone, he was paid 3 million. So needless to say, this is a gentleman who is ahead of the curve on many things, waits it out for the long haul, and then does quite well with it. So outside of all of that, it is still interesting always to see that it's not just us who's getting affected by this entire market. A lot of times the difference between us And the big boys, outside of obviously the capital they're playing with, is the mentality and the psychology that goes behind what they're doing. They understand what they're doing, and to the effect that they have conviction. And so for them, down markets mean a better opportunity to buy. For us retail traders or retail investors, we panic. And our conviction is high during good times and low during bad times. And that's what makes us buy high and sell low, which is really what kills our entire wealth. So like I said, while these guys right here, their net worths have been devastated from where they were in March, it's on paper. They don't sell out to materialize those losses in general, but that's what retailers do. So let's not be retail investors. Let's think and act like long-term seasoned investors, smart money as they call it, and let's prosper. Let's continue to build on our positions, especially for Bitcoin and ETH. That's what I'm doing. And so that when the next bull market comes, maybe you'll see me at the top of this list.